Welcome to The Screen Queen, the show where I'll be talking about your favorite TV show or your favorite movie. You'll just have to listen to find out. This is your host, Samantha Parrish.
Hello there, and welcome back to the show. As always, I am your female Tarantino, your screen queen, Samantha Parrish. It has been a hot minute since I've done the Trailer Time episodes, and there hasn't really been any movies to talk about lately until this morning when I saw the Garfield trailer, and oh boy, do I have thoughts about it. So, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Garfield. I I saw the movie with my grandfather back in 2004, and I remember enough about it to know that it was terrible. I think every kid back in 2004 definitely felt the sense of, really? That's it? And now it's like almost 20 years later, that same feeling is coming back with Garfield. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of Garfield, I know there are people out there that do love the lazy lasagna feline. And I've always had this respect for any fan base that I want them to get what they want. And I don't know how this is going to work for people. It's not out yet, but there are just some things that you can see the writing on the wall. And lately, the animation films have been going downhill, and your girl is a huge fan of animation, so that's my only tie-in that I can be able to advocate for something even if I don't entirely advocate for this certain section of animation. Garfield has always had a good deadpan sense of humor, so throwing that into this kind of adventure sense for the change of his character, I'm like, okay, as long as he's still funny, I think it just works for the change. But it doesn't feel like a good change. When we look at the original Garfield that came out in 2004, that is panned all across the board, but the tone was still kinda there. Garfield was still lazy. Garfield was still selfish. Garfield didn't need an adventure. He was just existing. And you kind of had to see how he could coexist with Opie. And that was kind of the gist. And to be honest, the Garfield and Friends cartoon that came out is still the best all across the board. Like I've seen enough to know, yeah, that's Garfield to the heart. Even right down to the voice actor and jumping back on board to the point I made about 2004, Bill Murray, perfect Garfield, even though his ass got stuck with that character when he didn't want to, but still, I can't not hear Bill Murray as Garfield. Now you have Chris Pratt as Garfield, and I have issues. It hurt my ears to hear Chris Pratt as Garfield. That was the first thing I texted my friend Victoria this morning because we bond over the fact that we don't like Chris Pratt. I was talking to my grandfather this morning about the Garfield cartoon, and he listens to a lot of my rants. And I had to explain to him that this isn't the first time that Chris Pratt has been involved with the kids' media, that he was previously in Super Mario Brothers. And when I explained to him about the whole controversy behind Chris Pratt, and then it really hit hard when my grandfather had to reiterate a perfect definition to sum it up that that's the guy in the leading role for a majority of kids' media when he himself doesn't have the best morale. It's a little bit perturbing, and here we are again with Garfield. Like, what the fuck's going on? From what the media has explained about Chris Pratt, that he's not the golden boy that everyone pegs him to be, that he's not a great dude. And now think about this. You're going to have a dude that doesn't have the best morality being the face of children's cartoons. Like, that's a little bit strange, isn't it? And now you have him play Garfield. And Garfield is not really everyone's top tier kid flick, but still, that's a little uncomfortable to think about. And that's coming from someone who, again, does not think so much of Garfield and doesn't think so much of Chris Pratt, but I can't also unhear the things that I know about Chris Pratt, and I can't unsee the trailer. And this is where we're getting into it. The trailer just feels like your usual cash grab. It just does. I saw the fact that they're angling towards the story with Garfield reuniting with his father, and Opie's along for the adventure because Opie's just down for anything. He does not have the best sense of friends that he has to have a lasagna lazy cat as a best friend, but whatever, we're here. And the fact that it has to do with his father being threatened by some other cat, I'm like, it just sounds like The Secret Life of Pets. Now, don't quote me on it, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. Now, with that said, there is always room for a story to change in the future. That's the beautiful thing about stories, is that you can always do different versions of them. Like, for instance, the one I think of at the top of my head is Scoob. When they did a Hanna-Barbera universe mixed with Scooby-Doo, making it like a superhero storyline, it did work. I did see it. It's not my favorite. I'm not going to go back and watch it 100 times, but I could see that they did pull through. But will Garfield pull through with this new storyline of his origin story? That's the $64,000 question, to see if this is going to be a good adventure story for Garfield. And I didn't do too much digging about what company is doing this. In fact, maybe I should do that right now and look up what company Garfield is a part of. Let me see here. Garfield 2024 movie. All right, if I see Illumination, then we know we're in for some shit. Let's see here. Oh, here it is. No, it's right on the front page. Oh, it's by Columbia Pictures. Okay, that's not any better, but that's on Illumination, so that's a good thing. But man, it just doesn't feel right at all. And the end of the trailer had a whole lot of celebrities. Like, I was like, oh god, here we go. It's just going to be an ensemble film. But I will give it this point. I love the fact that they put and Snoop Dogg as a cat. Was like, okay. For some celebrities to go onto a film and having their cast call be the joke for a film, I got no problems with that. Snoop Dogg playing a cat, I know that'll be the coolest fucking cat in that movie. No doubt. However, I do have something else to say about the film that I think can work with Chris Pratt being in the film and the fact that it's an ensemble film. I was telling my grandpa about this morning, that when the Super Mario Brother film came out, the focus was more on Jack Black than Chris Pratt, so it carried the film. So whoever else is going to be in that movie that's going to carry the film besides Chris Pratt, that could really work. But we haven't been given enough to know if the film was going to work yet. We just know Chris Pratt's in it. That's all I could hear was Chris Pratt. And the jokes I heard, they weren't landing with me. And I could tell they were trying to work, but Chris Pratt's voice is too fast and not low enough. That's why I go back to say Bill Murray was perfect as Garfield. And I know he can't come back to it. I'm sure they probably asked him, and I'm sure he's like, don't ever come to my house again and ask me that again. Bill has enough trauma from Garfield, I get it. But I wish they picked someone else. And it's not just me saying that because I don't think so highly of Chris Pratt. It's just you have to find a perfect voice to match the character that's going to be played. This is kind of a off-the-wall reference, but back when Swan Princess came out, they had this one actor playing Speedy the Turtle. And then they had Stephen Wright as Speedy the Turtle. And that voice did not match a character like Speedy the Turtle that was just very low, very, very deadpan. It's just like, Speedy the Turtle looks way too happy to have such a low, sad voice. Maybe that was the irony. I don't know what they were going for, but it has been the complaint over the years about this one specific casting for Snow White. So that makes my point with Chris Pratt as Garfield. It just doesn't suit. They should have gotten Stephen Wright to play Garfield. You gotta choose appropriate voice for an appropriate character. I didn't think I'd have a 9-minute rant about Garfield, but here we are. So, again, it's not the film for me. You're not going to be catching a Garfield review on the Screen Queen. Your girl just is not down for the lasagna-loving cat, but like I said, I've seen enough to know that I want things to work out for the fans of Garfield. And I truly hope that it does. I hope that this trailer might be like a learning curve, or maybe they know from the consensus reaction to know like what can we do differently, or what do we know that we need for this film, or maybe to take it as a lesson to not do this again. Garfield doesn't get too many portrayals in the media. Last time we had was that traumatic incident in 2004 with the Garfield movie and its sequel, so people just kind of wanted to leave that alone, and now there's this opportunity to come through for a beloved classic cartoon, and thank God he's back to being a cartoon again, but it looks right, but it doesn't sound right. It just needs a little bit more work, and I'll be interested to see what the reviews are when that film comes out, but until then, this has been your episode of Trailer Time. This Friday is going to be the premiere of the commentary of Mary Riley. It's going to be one hell of a show coming up. But I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you want to catch up with me in between uploads, you can find me on my Instagram at the Queen of the Screen. If you also have some thoughts about Garfield that you want to share, if you want to find the behind the scenes that I put up on my TikTok, you can find me at the Mystical Space Witch. And if you're interested in the book series that I wrote called Inglorious Inc., that bad boy is in the description box. Alrighty, you all take care now. Be cool cats out there. This is your Screen Queen, signing off. Bye-bye!